well, they lose it straight away, but if they can hold on to the ball, they've certainly got some speed, and they've got some players that can go a long way. Hyunzu is one of them, and there's plenty of players down this right-hand flank. Clear out is good. Injo goes in, clears it to Young-Soo. Lovely offload there. Unfortunately, it just didn't go to hand. And here come the Russians on attack. The step and then the acceleration from Sukin. Dmitry Sukin does it so well. Lovely footwork from the little sweeper and the flyer from Russia. And he scores his first try here in Hong Kong, and it was a beauty.
Well, an absolute perler, wasn't it? All of our paces, they get the turnover, and then it's just natural finishing ability. Beats three people with his footwork. Absolutely outstanding finish from him. Russia 5-0 up, sorry.
Yeah, Dmitry Sukin made his debut in Dubai and was seen in Vancouver, so was used in the last tournament. It's confidence at this stage of the game as well, isn't it? I mean, okay, 3 games in one day is always tough. They had 2 games yesterday, 1 game on the Friday night, and so this to get themselves into a final, and more importantly, get some valuable points, something.
Oh, definitely, and also for them just to get that, build the confidence as they go through. They'll have the European series coming up for Russia. You know, South Korea will want to build on this, and as Asian rugby starts to grow and get bigger and bigger, and there's tournaments like this and moments like this where you get to cut your teeth and practice your skill set.
Babayev, the man going up and competing against Hwang In-jo. Here he is from the Kepco Korea club. Here on debut are a number of these Korean players. 6 in total. And unfortunately they've lost a large number of their squad, but Russia have possession now and control of where they set a target, and Babayev. Koreans come in and look interested to try and steal the ball, and a little offload here gets it out to Davidov. Davidov just one to beat, steps, then the fend, and Davidov's too good. The Russians showing how to play the game of sevens. Lovely footwork, the great fend, and Herman Davidov scores his 14th try.
Well, I mean, it comes from this strength from Babayev, not the biggest of men, but carries it forward, and then it's all about out to the width off that breakdown, strength, stepping off, and look at that fend. Kids watching at home, that's how you do it. Ball transfer, free up the hand, fend the man off and score the try. Great stuff from Russia.
22 years old from the Saracens club in Moscow. Here, Filatov, Edward Filatov. A difficult angle. And it's been a real learning curve for South Korea. They are the 3rd best side here in Asia. Of course, Japan and Hong Kong competing, and now will play in that final for the right to become a qualifier, or a core team, I should say, next year. And so it's been a tough old 3 days for South Korea.
It has, but it shows the stiff competition they're up against in Japan and Hong Kong, because they're in the final vying for that qualification spot for core status next year. And yeah, they'll get better, they'll come from it, they'll learn from that. Let's
see if South Korea can respond, and they will. The captain, Kim Hyun-soo, gets it down. Great chase coming across from Sukin, but that is the captain's knock at the most important time.
It is, as he gives the big He-Man at the end, flexing his guns, and that's what he used, coming straight through with the full firepower, fends off his man, running direct. And there it is, reaches for the line and scores the try. Great work from him.
3 tries in his career, 2nd here in Hong Kong. And he enjoyed it, running to the stand there. 3rd day, absolutely sold out. A lot of people because of the rain that we've experienced. You can see some empty seats there in the south stand. I can tell you that behind those seats are underneath the stands. It is heaving.
There's just a mass of people about to pour out as soon as the rain stops. Nothing will keep them back.
This gives Korea just a little bit of hope. Only trail by the 5 points, and now the most important part is the restart. Taken nicely by Simplikovic. And here come South Korea with the penalty and possession. Good lineup out to the left. Here comes Dong-hun. Dong-hun looking to try and get on the extreme outside can't do so, and Davidov just manhandles him and then steals the ball.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of lack of game understanding there from South Korea, kind of running up a channel to nowhere, and Russia getting the turnover.
Well, the maul is called, and the Russians know how that plays out, that if they can't release it, they'll get the scrum.
Hold first.
It's just that inexperience that you're talking about as well, because Russia have been on the circuit now for the whole year, and they've still got 3 tournaments to go to. And it must be difficult for a lot of these teams too, Ollie, to be honest, because English is their second language, and they hear words like maul or release or let it go, and it's a little bit more difficult for them to try and understand and to actually react immediately.
Yeah, I can imagine it's hard, and then add into that boiling pot, not playing at this sort of competitive level where your lungs are screaming. You've got to make some crucial decisions in a split second, so every little helps, and I'm sure as they get to play more and more in the series, they'll improve.
And they get back and will have to launch from their own half. The little skip pass gets it back to Jung Hung, and they get it wide where they have got some players who have just got back into position. And one of them's the big forward, and Injo winds up the big unit. Takes the ball to the 22, but the offload wasn't right. The counter-up comes in from South Korea, and they've infringed again, unfortunately. The crowd enjoyed seeing big Hwang Injo in full flight. Have a look at this.
Oh, look at that. Sit down, he says. And then, unfortunately, just the offload not going to hand. They've got some real power in this South Korean team. They can really sit the odd man down.
There's a fair bit of Kimuchi in that number 2 shirt. 112 Ks he's down in the program. That might have been during the summer.
Well, they can, in the words of R. Kelly, they can do some bump and they can do the grind. They just need to add a tiny bit of finesse to their already physical prowess.
That's not referee R. Kelly, is it? Here come Russia again with the throw that wasn't straight. So those little micro-managed things that I'm sure they'll talk about, and I'm sure the coaches will have plenty to say to them as well as we head to the break. 2 tries to 1. Russia leading South Korea 12-7.
Надо делать захваты, не пускать игрока, бежать за ним. Надо забрать этот мяч себе, вернуть ему. Это понятно? Да. Давай ты надежнее. Тогда вообще... Я мяч останавливаю. Руки. Все, хорош, блядь. From that set piece, we have to really get out quickly, all right? Go right down this part of the field, get it down there, push them down there, push them. All right? Okay. Work hard, boys, keep talking. 7 minutes.
John Walters barking out the messages there for South Korea. It was interesting to note there, Ollie, that the Russian coach came on, said about 15 words and then turned around and just walked off. So I don't know whether that's a rev up or whether he's actually pleased with what he's seen.
What do you think he said? Just walked in and said, look, lads, I'm soaking wet. Get this game won. I'm going back to the bench. Now, they've got everything they need to in the locker. He knows it. They just need to add a bit of discipline to their game.
Do you ever have a coach have one of those speeches? I did in the 15-a-side game, but that was about 1,000 years ago.
They did, actually, in Wellington final when we played New Zealand. Ben Ryan walked in. He said, you guys are good enough. I know you're good enough. Go and do it. We came back and won it from 17-0 down.
Well, that's not good enough from the Koreans, because they've kicked the ball straight into touch and have gifted the Russians possession on the halfway line. Dmitry Sukin will tap and go. Just works the ball along. The tackles have to be made here from South Korea, but just look how accurate they are. Now the passes need to stick for the Russians. Great execution there, and the last pass coming out from Babayev to the man on the Alex Streams, and now he just brushes through one. Can they hold on? He might be able to get there. Yes, he will. Just falls at the end. Denis Sikmovic's 4th try. here in Hong Kong. He had a lot of work to do to get through some of the defence, and he showed a lot of skills for a big man.
He did. Look at the power in his legs, though, as he goes through, just bumping people off. 2-3 tackles he evades, and then, even then, keeps driving those legs to power through. They've got him now on the width, and Shushkov to come back. Two big power athletes in this Russian side, and great finish from him.
(17-7) extends their lead. Passes pretty even in this game. Also the amount of tackles that have been made, but the missed tackles is the one that's really hurting the South Koreans, and has done for the last couple of days. This is the Shield semi-final. Russia a core team. South Korea, their first tournament of the year on the HSBC Sevens World Series, and they're here because of the qualifiers. So we need to keep reminding you of that. And the difference that there is there, the pass looking to try and get on the outside was Han Dong-hun. Couldn't release the ball, but they've got the penalty, and now can they respond? Big and strong is Zhang Xiaoquan.
Worth mentioning, Willie, the referee here, Federico Anselmi. In these conditions, sometimes you can get called out a lot in the detail, and he's really letting the game flow. Both sides having a go at this. Is really great to see on the sevens field.
It's a world game, isn't it? An Argentinian referee officiating a match between the Russians and South Korea. And all of them speaking English.
The world we live in these days.
This is the world game. Will be shown to the world in August from Rio de Janeiro. Sevens finally on the big stage at the big dance of the Summer Olympics. 12 teams in the men, 12 in the women. We played over 3 days. Koreans with possession, they'd love to score next to keep the game alive. It's too easy to defend against because the cut was made so late that the defenders just stayed where they were, held their line, but they've got a good lineup of players here of South Korea. As I mentioned, they've got some real pace if they can just execute out to Injo. Injo goes in and then goes out, the big man. And now the support, he's throwing the ball away, which he can't do on the series, and he's going to spend 2 minutes in the bin. Zero tolerance, and that's that inexperience again about not knowing the rules of sevens.
It is. Unfortunately, he's got some wheels in those little yellow boots of his, but throwing the ball away means he sees yellow at the same time. And that'll hurt his side at this point. They'll really need him on the field.
They need to score. Stay in the contest. Here come the Russian subs.
And it is the big man, Simplikovic, who comes off the power try scorer.
Let's see how they go from their own in goal. Well, in 22. Here's Davidov. Davidov looks for the options. He's got left and right. Throws the pass. It'll bounce, and it bounces up nicely too. Sozanov should have too much pace, and he guesses around. That is Russia at their absolute best from their own 22. They launch the attack, and Sozanov gets his 10th try.
I mean, this is great little interchange though there from the line break. Look at him looking around everywhere, looking for support. Sells the dummy, the old little David Duckham dummy. And then it's all about pace just to finish. Great stuff from Russia.
Look at that from Davidov. Drew in the sweep of the last defender, and all Sozanov had to do was control the bounce of the ball and then show the extreme pace that he has. (22 plays 7, 4 tries to 1, and they've been good tries too from the Russians. Have started deep in their own half, showing some good skills, and they really pushed England last night in that game. They drew 12 all. There were many England fans that would have been thinking, is this really happening? And it was.
They had the kick to win it, didn't they? And just missed it at the end. So close. Really frustrated England, and exactly how they're doing now. They're really disciplined at the breakdown time, and the physicality they bring to the game poses problems.
Well, South Korea, they won't go home empty-handed because they have had a couple of occasions where they've scored 3 tries in the 4 matches that they've played. They've also been out here on the big stage at the Sokompo Stadium. And they will also take back, I'm sure, a lot of memories. And it will also inspire the next generation of young South Koreans to play our wonderful game. There is Jan Yushkin, one of the smaller players on the circuit. He actually retired and got into management of the Russian team, but they've just been struck with injuries over the last season that he's actually had to get the boots back out and play. Well, he's manhandled there. Not Jan Yushkin, but Davidov. And the Koreans gone off it, not the 5 metres though. Needed to go in 5 metres and also from the mark.
Interesting, Willie, off the scrums, we've seen a lot of the kick pass off the back where the nines just don't want to get pressurised. It's been really effective, actually, especially considering the weather, just to get the ball out quickly and away from the point of contact.
They've had to do it tough, the Koreans. They're down to 8 players, so they've just got the 1 reserve that they can use if required. Tough 3 days.
Injo there, just getting caught on the line out, carried back into touch. He must have thought he wanted to sit back on the bench after 2 minutes there.
There's a mistake from the Russian player, losing it forward, and so we're into the last stage of this semi-final, the first semi-final between Russia and South Korea. Up next is Portugal and Canada, 2 teams also looking for valuable points in the series.
Crouch. 5, set.
Or Yong-Jung. They feed it, they'll get the penalty. It's around too quick with the Russian players. And can they score another try? South Korea, their last chance in the last few seconds on the stadium in this stage. Work it from one way to in midfield where Chil Kwan throws a speculator, and now the Russians, they want to save a little bit of energy for that final, and they've got the option of just kicking it out, but Davidov says, what are we going to do? They look left, they look right, and the big fin comes out from Korokov. That looked like a difficult tackle there. And they kick a chase. Here is Jan Yushkin. He is a good player to bring off the bench, is Jan Yushkin. He'll pick up the ball, and those little legs will get him over the try line to score Russia's 5th. Alexander Jan Yushkin scores his 19th try after making his debut way back in Hong Kong. Wait for this, in 2001.
Right, there's still life in those old limbs, and those little legs go into overdrive there to score the try. And a resounding victory for Russia that brings. But nice to see the veteran getting over the line for them.
From manager to player, showing them how it's done. Russia have booked the date in the final. They've beaten South Korea by 29 points to 7.